12 is comments from council members. Marty, you have before we get into that, I just want to ask Mark Zaffarano to briefly discuss something that I've gotten some comments from the public regarding the marijuana thing that we have. What is preventing us from doing a permanent ban on this? And do we have to, if we do we have to do it now, or can we wait? I mean, maybe you could just give us a little update on that, because there's some...
Sure. Very briefly, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, you've adopted a moratorium on all commercial marijuana activities in the city of San Bruno, and that moratorium is in effect until October 25th of 2018. So that law has the same force and effect as any permanent ordinance that you might decide to adopt either now or at a later date. But at this point, nothing prevents you from deciding to adopt a permanent ordinance, and a permanent ordinance would not expire unless it were reversed or repealed by the City Council. So as you know, adopting the moratorium required 4 votes. Adopting or repealing a permanent ordinance requires only 3 votes. So it's really at the pleasure of the council as to whether they would like to direct me to bring forward now a permanent ordinance regarding commercial marijuana activities in the city, or to do so at a later date, either after the first of the year or after the first of the year, at some date after that, when we know what the regulations from the state of California are going to be. So it's really the City Council's discretion. A permanent ordinance would require 2 readings, so we need a business meeting to introduce the ordinance and then a meeting to adopt the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. I've been asked by the public, a number of members of the public, to see if there's any rush to get this done, but we can do it after the state actually sets their laws, right?
You can, that's correct.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you. Marty, you have want us to consider an application to the San Mateo County Transportation Authority to fund establishment of a proposed shuttle service in San Bruno?
Right. So I was approached by Jeffrey Tong, a member of our bicycle pedestrian committee, about this upcoming grant that's available due at sometime, it doesn't have an exact date, due in December. And Jeffrey knows way more than I do. I just wondered if it was appropriate for him to...
As long as it's brief.
As long as it's brief, Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
San Bruno Bike and Pedestrian Committee passed a bike and pedestrian master plan in 2016, but it really doesn't address the hills. It's rather deficient. I was told by Joel Slavitt that a shuttle call for project is going to be beginning December the 15th, but Bike and Pedestrian Committee meets every 2 months, and your committee probably needs to make a decision within the next month too, because Joel Slavitt says that you need to prepare for this. Once December 15th comes up, you probably have enough time to just fill out the applications. I'd ask you to support this shuttle call for project, because we need to at least look at opportunities to deal with the traffic congestion and parking issues in downtown. And I proposed a quick route. Option 1, basically, Marty asked me to do 3 options. Option 1 is just to go up San Bruno Avenue to the Sweeney Ridge Trail and the San Andreas Trail. Option 2 was just do 3 loops so that you at least serve the adjacent neighborhoods going up San Bruno Avenue. Option 3 was to do a citywide shuttle, but that was too long, more than 1 hour. So I proposed a route for you to look at, and hopefully the staff can evaluate the logistics of that as well as the cost. Again, Joel Slavitt mentioned that it depends upon which vendor you use, and that would determine what the cost is. At this point in time, I don't have that information, and he recommends that staff look into that a little bit further. I'd like to just leave this with...
Why don't you give them to the city clerk?
And then pass that to the council.
So I think part
Any
of the
questions?
concept was that you would work with the BPAC to assist with writing the grant and to minimize the cost to the city by not utilizing staff very much. And I volunteered to work with Jeffrey to be able to write a grant. I do have a little bit of experience doing so. And being able to minimize costs, and the bare bone concept would be you get more points, and Ken could probably help me out on this a little bit if he recalls, about serving, they call it transit-dependent neighborhoods. So originating in the avenues, coming up through downtown to go to BART, to go to Caltrain, loop up to Bay Hill, drop off the YouTube people that are working on Saturdays and Sundays, head up to Bay Hill, and then drop them off at the top of the trailhead and loop back down. That's the bare bones route that I'm most interested in, that I think has the highest, the lowest cost and the most likelihood of meeting the criteria that is being set up by the Transportation Authority.
Correct. Although they have not initiated the start of call for projects, the Samtrans representative showed me what the application was for the last call of projects, and each section has maybe about 15 to 25 points. The proposal that I'm giving you tonight touches on all the lower, I don't want to use the word poverty-stricken, but yeah, those areas that allow greater number of points, and it just touches them so that it, as well as service all the adjacent neighborhoods to San Bruno Avenue going all the way up. The greatest difficulty for the people living at the top of the hill is Portola Highlands and College Heights is that there's no opportunity to come down to mass transit unless they have a car. And with this shuttle, I think, I don't know how many, which is the optimal number of people per bus, but if you just have 30 people per bus times 6 or something per hour, you could talk about close to 200 people or 200 cars that you could eliminate off the road. But again, this is just a pilot project to look at a weekend opportunity. And there was a study that says that a lot of people really like to bike long distances. And since we have a 17-mile trail all the way down to Woodside, San Mateo Parks has a shuttle from Redwood City Transit Center to Edgewood and Wunderlich. This proposal could close that loop and give tourists or even Bay Area residents an opportunity to take a short vacation through San Bruno. And it could be an opportunity for the city to look at making San Bruno an eco-tourist destination in the future. But again, having this pilot project could give you that data to make that decision in a couple of years.
All right.
Question?
Thank you. Any questions for?
Maybe Irene wants to chime
Irene,
in, or Ken, but
anything on that?
real quick, you were saying about the BPAC only meets every other month. To me, if this is something that the BPAC is going to represent or want to bring back as a recommendation, they should meet and discuss it as a committee. And as with all the committee commissions and boards, a special meeting can be called of the city council, of committee commissions and boards, if it's something that's really pressing that you or the committee feel very strongly about. So there are those options available. And so just wanted to let you know in case that wasn't known, but we've done it on the city council. When I was vice mayor, we called a meeting quicker to name Bob Greenberg Field because he was passing away. And we wanted to make sure we could get it done. It was that important to us, so we could call him at City Hall and let him know of the news. So if there are things that are important, we make the time and we'll get it done. But I also, excuse me,
Okay.
but I also want to make sure we're going through the channels, because you were saying BPAC, but they're not meeting. So I'm going to assume you're representing BPAC or you're representing yourself?
No, at this point in time, I'm representing myself. At the last meeting, we created a trail connection subcommittee, but we really haven't had time to even discuss this because this deadline is within a month and a half.
Okay.
So
And we're not
did
sure of the
request-
cost yet?
I did request to the planning director to have a special meeting, but this was just yesterday, and we haven't gotten any response. I understand the whole staff has been overwhelmed with so much work. When they are able to respond to me, then we can hold that meeting if possible. But at our last meeting, our engineering and planning liaison just departed, so everything is still in transition at this point in time.
Okay. Yeah.
Jeffrey,
just wanted you to be aware.
I'd really like to have the whole committee take a look at this in a more
I do
comprehensive way.
appreciate it, and I certainly will.
For the council to rush into this and say, it sounds good, and let's do it. I want to hear from our commissions, boards, and committees, because that's what you guys do. And if there's interest in that, real interest in it, you can bring back to the council in the future. Maybe you miss a deadline, maybe you don't, but right now, it's a little too nebulous as far as I'm concerned to actually go forward with this.
Okay, I'm working on that. Thank you much.
Okay, thank you. Study session, we had it earlier. If there's nothing else, anything else?
Through the chair,
Irene?
I just want to remind people that we are holding our last Sunday of the month cleanup on San Mateo Avenue at 10 o'clock. We meet behind the Centennial Park in the parking lot there next to West Coast Cafe, and we clean for an hour and then we go home. So if you want to join us, I have all the equipment, and unless it's raining, hopefully. You can do that.
I just want to remind everybody, before our next council meeting, we have an election in the city, so please get out and vote. It's really, really important.
Sorry.
One more thing?
Yeah. This Saturday, American Legion, pancake breakfast. It's a great breakfast. Get there at 8:30. I'm probably going to continue cooking there again if they let me back in. Sorry, Robert. But all you can eat, $10, 8:30 to 11, American Legion. We'll see about that. Labor laws around here, Robert.